All right, coaches, what's up? I wanted to give you a quick update and a little bit of A-gap power tonight. So it's been a long couple months for me. I tried to get this going in the spring, just didn't have time with everything going on RL. On the positive note, wife made it through her kidney transplant, is recovering well, all that good stuff. No hitches, no issues. It's actually been kind of amazing how smoothly it's gone. So praise God for that. So yeah, anyway, I haven't had a lot of time to focus on football with just everything going on around home, trying to keep everything going together. New job and focused on that. It's been a great place to be and all that stuff. So um, anyway, I want to give you guys some A-gap power tonight, uh, and let's kind of get into it here. So why run A-gap power? Uh, I think the key components to A-gap power that are beneficiary over C-gap power, and the reason you should include this as an interior running game threat, is because any type of edge threat you have, whether it's buck sweep, G-toss, wide zone, stretch, outside zone, jet sweep, rocket toss, whatever you want to call it, edge threats, stuff like that, you have to have something in the middle to complement it. Because what happens is, as linebackers start flowing, okay, yeah, I apologize, I get excited kids out there. As linebackers start flowing to these edge threats, they're going to start losing discipline a little bit. Okay, and what you're really playing off of A-gap power is that backside cutback through the A-gap once they hit the hole, and you're playing off of the linebackers over pursuit. Okay, so you get them rocking real hard with two pulling guards on buck sweep, and then all of a sudden there's just one guard shuffle pulling, and then you're cutting back off the A-gap as they start flowing hard. That's a very difficult combination to handle. There's a lot of RPOs you can build off of it because of the downhill nature of it and things like that. You can hard play action it and stuff. So yeah, anyway, I want to give you a little bit of a rules clinic here, and then I'll get into a short film thing, and I'll show you a couple examples here on this whiteboard behind me, just to kind of give you the basics. Obviously, there's people who have polished it, perfected it, changed some terminology, things like that, but this is what I was able to get from notes, and from what I have observed in practical, iterations and things like that, and seeing it in action, has been when you get the center, the play side guard and play side tackle understanding when their rules change, then this play can really pop off, and understanding the techniques of what happens when they change. That's when this thing gets nasty. Okay, it's an expensive play, so I wouldn't recommend running 100 run schemes, but I think this, in complement with a wide or outside run scheme, is definitely a very good thing to have in any run offense. It could be, you could be 100 different kinds of offenses. I think A-gap power can be for just about anybody. You're not requiring the guard to be ultra fast. He just has to shuffle pull to the opposite guard's butt cheek and get north and south, and be physical at the point of attack. So if you've got that guy, which I think just about everybody in the country has at both guard positions, that they can shuffle pull to the opposite guard's butt crack, that's a whole, depending on the size of your lineman, maybe 5 feet, okay? Versus on a buck sweep play, you might be asking him to go, 10 or 15 feet, right? So, and then hook up in there. So it's a lot different as far as the agility and things like that and the speed required to make that happen. But I think A-gap power can be for anybody. And a lot of teams, what they'll do is if they're a C-gap power team, they'll complement A-gap power in there as their alternative. That's fine. You can do that. I personally have gotten away from C-gap power in recent years just because there's so many teams that know how to run fit it now. And what I found is that my average per game, even with some of the spacing tricks and things like that I was using, has slowly gone down. So like, unless you're going to be a C-gap power team that plays games with your tight end and tackle and switching blocking schemes up to be able to get, people arcing and things like that to get it to work, there's so many fronts that I've found that run either under fronts or under G, and then they'll run like some type of weird, like a 2I and a 4 to the strong side and stuff, trying to screw that up. I found that C-gap power has really struggled. Now, if you're seeing a weird front like that to the play side to take away A-gap power, obviously you're going to check out of it and go to one of your different runs. But anyway, let's get into this. So if you need to, pause the video, look at the rules, reread them, take notes, whatever you need to. But basically, BST is backside tackle, BSG is backside guard, play side tackle, play side guard, and center. All right, now the basics and the general rule of what I'm going to try to get across here is if it's a 0 or a 1, the center and the play side guard are going to double that down. If it's a 2I, the guard's going to make a call, and the guard is going to post it, and the play side tackle is going to double that down. Okay. If it's a 3 technique, the play side guard and play side tackle are going to post and double that down. And If it's a 4-eye, however, the tackle is going to try to post, and you're going to get a double bump from your fullback. And anything basically outside of a 3 technique is the first thing getting kicked by the fullback. Okay, so it's a solution to handle a lot of these mint fronts and inside technique things that we're seeing nowadays with all the odd structures and 3 down. So yeah, we'll kind of get into this as we go along. So anyway, the main thing with that double technique is same foot, same shoulder, crotch and sternum, right? You're getting that hand up under his chest for the guy that's posting, and the guy that's washing down. I've heard this done a couple different ways based upon your philosophy and how worried you are about penetration and doubles getting split and things like that. But basically, the tackle is crushing down to the guard's, belly button with his backside hand behind his shoulder plate and his outside or front play side hand on the upside hip or hip pocket of that oblique area of that defensive lineman, and we're trying to collapse that down extremely hard. It's a violent thing. There's a big emphasis on skate step, which is basically his first foot of that, whoever that guy is doing the wash down, whether it's the play side guard, play side tackle. He basically picks that first foot up, puts it right back down, and then pushes off of the outside or play side foot straight down into that oblique hip pocket area. Okay, that was one of the big things I've noticed with the technique is it's about your first steps with those linemen and their aiming points as far as how hard this wash comes down, and you'll see it when it's done effectively. It's quite impressive the amount of movement and displacement they get. Okay, that's the basics of the rules. I'll leave it here for just a second in case you need to pause. Okay, that should be all the rules. And then if you're going to do it out of either empty or single back, basically what you do, if you don't have a full back or a sniffer, then what you're going to turn this into is basically A-gap power read. Okay, alright, so let's get into this. I'll show you the footage real quick. This is North Dakota State, basically one of the first names that comes to mind when you think about A-gap power. They come out in, this is what I call left eye, and this would be a zip motion, and then I would call the play alpha. Okay, and they're going against a 50 front. It looks like 0 and 4 eyes up front. So the way this play should work, and we'll go back and freeze it here. Let's talk about it. This fullback, he's kicking first thing outside of a 3 with this 4-eye technique. Man standing right there by the mouse. That's going to be a double bump technique by the play side tackle and this fullback. The center and guard should be washing the nose down. Okay, backside guard should be pulling, shuffle pulling, and coming right off the keister of the play side guard up into the hole, looking for the first thing shows up. And running back should be coming down the play side midline, cutting back to the backside A-gap. Okay, and you'll see this crease. They're on the 31-yard line. Okay, watch how many yards they get off of this. This is where it's deadly. Get the wash down, the double bump, boom, right up in the hole, cut back through the A-gap, and now you're talking 10, 20, 30, 35 yards-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay, here's the end zone copy. You can see the 0 and 4-eye again to the strong side. They've even got a 3 technique backside, which, people are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't cut that off. But if you look at between the guard hinging and the center washing back, okay, they take care of that. You get plenty of movement right there in that A-gap crease between the nose and the tackle on the defense. It's a big old game. All right, so now let's get back into, I'll show you quick examples here, how you would do this on a couple different formations. One of the ones I see quite often around here, I would call this tear. Camel B. Okay, and all tear is that's the fancy word I use to get out of my red and blue into my Y off world. Okay, this would be your Y, your H, your Q, you got your X, 3, this would be your Z. Okay, now let's throw it up against one of these mint fronts that everybody likes to run around here, especially in my area of the country here. We got SEC ball. You got backer, Mike, Leo, Sam, corner, free. You got Will, corner. Okay, and that's from the 2-high split field world out of 3-3 structure, or 3-3 personnel with the 3-4 structure. All right, so look at what we got here. We got a 4i and a 0. Okay, this should be a double. He's going to wash that hard down, hinge, and he can even work up to the free safety late. Shuffle pull right off the keister of this guard, kicking out whatever comes. Okay, we're going to get the post, we're going to get the double bump, work that up. The running back, okay, we have a fullback in the game, so we can either flash fake and A-gap this with the quarterback, or we can just hand it straight to the running back. And so a lot of people do it from pistol or from the strong side. Doesn't really matter. It's as long as the running back can get his footwork. Okay, you can get that footwork going right down the midline on the play side, and then cut it back this way. Okay, basic A-gap power. You can do a lot of different RPOs and stuff. You can flash the bubble and all that. You can do, what I call Dino, which is basically it's this guy out of Illinois who came up with it, but it's a hip up and an in. The adjustment to the old slant lock play. It's much better spacing, things like that. A lot of different situations you can do off that. Okay, that is out of basically what would be essentially 11 personnel, or some people will call it 20, but it's basically just my tight end and my H back there. Okay, if we want to do this out of empty, right? Realize you've got no fullback in the game now. Okay, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to read it. So this would just be empty right. Okay, let's say they come out in one of my favorite fronts, under G. Say they're playing some mix on the backside there. And let's just say with this front, let's say they want to play like what TCU would call 5 or a 2 invert, cover 2, that type of deal. Okay, so let's say they're playing that, all right, and I want to run this A-gap power. I would call this empty right stealth. Okay, you've got your flash fake, get the reaches there, all right. You're getting this motion. You've got a 2i here, so you're going to make the call. Boom, boom, backside, back there, pick and hinge, work up to safety. Okay, you should be working up to kick out, and you're going to read that guy. Okay, so I'm going to get shuffle, shuffle, plant back, cut back into the backside A-gap. Okay, that would be empty right stealth alpha. Okay, or alpha read, however you wanted to word it. But now you've got your basically old school flex bone or wing T rocket play built in with an A-gap power read off the quarterback out of empty with trips and tight end wing. Okay, that's a lot of different forms of offenses and a lot of different things to throw at a defense, but still being able to have an effective run game. All right, so that's one way to do it. Let's go into, let's just say you're more of a pro I guy. Let's go back into the old school I twins. Same deal, same rules up front. And let's say this time we'll just go with an old school traditional over front 4-3. Corner, strong safety, say free safety, and corner. Okay. Now, what's our rules, right? We've got a 0 or a 1 here, so we're going to try to post this, double it back. Okay, he's responsible for the play side 8. No, I'm sorry, I messed that up. He's not a play side 1, he's a backside 1. So this guy's going to single block this. We're going to post and double the 3 to backside. Shuffle pull right off the keister. We're kicking first thing outside of the 3 technique. Okay, he's on the midline and then cutting back A-gap. Pick and hinge B-gap. Quarterback, you can get into any scenario of play action off of that. So why would we run this play against the 4-3? All right. The whole thing is, let's say you've been running toss, or buck sweep, or maybe you're running buck sweep load where you've got that fullback going to that same side with the guards both pulling. Okay. Or I would call that buck sweep lead, or you could call it buck sweep load, depending on how you want to do it. Basically, you're adding that +1 with the fullback to play side. You're going to start getting those linebackers. They see guard pull, they're going to start flying. Free safety's flying. Okay. Now, with the double coming back, you're going to isolate the will out of that. You've got the nose already, so you've got a wall here. Mike's flown out with that guard pulling coming off the keister and flowing out like this. Now you've essentially made what you can see is this tunnel right here and this displacement off this tackle. By the time that back gets there and cuts back, it's going to be a home run ball. Okay, that's where the A gap power is deadly. Is once you get those linebackers rocking a little bit. Okay, it might not be the first play you run all game unless you're extremely good at it, but it certainly could be the second or third. Say you run buck, then say you want to run jet, and then say you get into what I call alpha or A gap power. Okay, you do that. You keep the linebackers from being able to dial in on what you're doing and be able to flow down and plug those gaps in the front. And that's really what you're trying to do with the balance in the scheme like that. Obviously, it's a great football play. It's kind of the evolved modern version of power. Some people might call it short power. I just call it A-gap power. But you can do it on a lot of different formations. It's very versatile. It's very adaptable to any offense. You can do it on a lot of different personnel groupings. I highly recommend it as a complementary run play, something that I think if you're a C-gap power team, you should maybe look at diverting into A-gap. So anyway, thanks, coaches. Hope you guys have a great night. Those of you that are almost, getting into playoff time and all that stuff, hopefully this was helpful. If nothing else, how to defend it, or maybe some rules, a little bit more understanding how to handle it, why teams run it, things like that. If you're an offensive coordinator looking to get into playoffs, this might be a good late season add-in, something that might carry you through the first or second round, something like that. So, anyway, Coach Nichols out. Keep doing what you do, coaches, making kids better, making a better future and a better generation for, we need leaders and strong young men. So, anyway, God bless. Good night.